What's going on, Ronan? In this video, we're talking about the very first major patch for New World called Into the Void. This one introduces the Void Gauntlet, some new enemies, some changes to some things, some patch updates. We're going to go over the patch notes right now, so make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and let's jump into it. So, new weapon, Void Gauntlet. The Void Gauntlet has manifested in Aeternum. Manipulate the powers of the Void to support your allies and debilitate your enemies with his magical damage support hybrid weapon. It's the first weapon to scale on both intelligence and focus, making it a great pairing with the Life Staff and other magical weapons. Adventurers will be able to progress through 2 weapon mastery trees, allowing the player to manipulate void magic in different ways. The Annihilation tree focuses on maximizing damage at close range and revolves around Void Blade, a summoned blade of corrosive void energy. The Decay tree offers ranged healing and debuffs and revolves around Orb of Decay, a dual phase projectile that can debuff enemies and heal allies. With its arsenal of buffs and debuffs, the Void Gauntlet is perfect for group combat and can significantly bolster your allies at the expense of your enemies. So we got some pictures here, they're pretty cool. You guys have seen some of the gameplay, those videos have been around already, or if you've played it yourself on the PTR, it is pretty interesting. One tree is definitely more heavy DPS, slightly like tankish, and the other one is definitely more heals. So there's very two distinct trees with that one. With new enemies, the Varangian Knights, which are your Russian Vikings. The Varangians are a force of invading knights currently raiding southeastern Aeternum. They are led by Lord Commander Atalis, a Gaul with a reputation for brutally and twisted sense of humor. Commander Atalis and the Varangians are vassals to a powerful warlord named Varric the Hammer Isnov. They have been sent to southeastern Aeternum in search of magical artifacts and arcane lore left behind by the Crimson Sorcerer. Their goal is to secure magical weapons that will help their lord in his conquest. The Varangians are fiercely competitive and will vie with one another to curry favor with Lord Commander Atalis. I believe the Crimson Sorcerer is Merlin. They do mention him in the lore. We're going to have a video on that. If you guys are interested in the lore of the Varangians, what they have in the game so far, I'm just going to go over what I know and where they come from. Why these fearsome warriors have arrived is a question to all. Face off against multiple new types of enemies, including the Varangian Hewer, Varangian Scout, Varangian Knight, and Varangian Archer, as you ascertain what they are chasing in Aeternum. We got some cool things. One of the things, these guys are Vikings, but you look at their armor, they have more knight armor. That's because during this time period, if you look up Vikings and horn helmets, you'll see there's some posters saying that they didn't really wear horn helmets. So these are part of that Viking, like the elite guard, Viking guard that were out there, like mercenaries, mercenary guard. World experience. World. Added starter zone visual variety and improvements. Updated visuals have been added to the starting areas. Corruption and withered visuals have been amplified in farms and points of interest. Ezra's Forge has been updated and moved from Amarine Temple to Southwest Windsward. You can run faster on roads. This is a great update. While running on roads, you will now receive a movement speed bonus of 10% while traveling on roads. Now, the movement speed will not trigger unless the player has been running for 3 seconds and they are on the road. And the movement bonus will be canceled if a player engages in combat in a way such as dodging, blocking, attacking, or being hit with a debuff. The move speed bonus is not active while player is actively engaged in wars, outpost rush, or duels. They've added a 10% luck bonus and a 30% gathering luck bonus to players flagged for PvP. And here's some notable bug fixes going on with those. They fix issues with various AI stuck in cliffs or boulders, fix issues with boss gating and triggering in expeditions, where some doors would show as closed but would be open instead. They fix several issues in expeditions that allow players to attack enemies without getting hit or heal teammates without being in an encounter. There's various enemy vitals, names, and versions have been updated and fixed, and they fixed various issues with the missing or incorrect world collision and navigation mesh. For Quest, they've added some new PvP faction missions, control points where you can seize control of a fort, and intercept where you defeat enemy faction members and collect their tiers, and war camp loot where you retrieve hidden plans at the enemy's war camp. Since we've updated several quests in the main storyline to improve the player experience with more compelling dynamics, including wave encounters, destructible objects, and proximity tracking nodes. As a result of these changes, players may find their progress reset for some main storyline quests. The quest Old Stone Remembers and New Initiate Old Order have undergone more extensive restructuring, and players who are on these quests will need to return to Jonas and Fisherman's Bend to re-accept these quests. They've updated the location of one of the Survivalist Wolf Den quests in First Light to reduce the amount of travel. The encounter design has also been updated to a wave event in all 3 starter zones. Some of the notable bug fixes for Quest: starting zone faction missions have been updated so early players will not be given missions to hunt sheep. Faction rank 2 quests are now offered at level 20, but are still recommended for level 25 plus players. Return to Innkeep quests now reward the proper amount of Azoth. Map pins were updated for hunt missions in Elder Gate to be more accurate. 2 elite faction assassination missions in Brightwood target elite enemies that only spawn at night. We've updated the quest to text to specify this requirement. I didn't even know there were enemies that only came out at night in this game. Various text fixes for typos, moving of quest locations, and reinforcement of story. Revised naming conventions for town projects to better distinguish them from faction missions. Fixed expedition loot PvE faction missions within the Garden of Genesis. Fixed a mismatch in the text requirements and actual requirements for the to be a Grandmaster fishing quest. Fixed an issue with PvP spy missions not being completed in non-settled zones. Added voiceover fixes for multiple NPCs. Fixed various issues causing NPCs to not complete their animations, and they fixed various issues causing incorrect loot tags to display. For the world tech, we have some bug fixes where they fixed an issue causing certain AI to spawn more frequently than intended. Issues that could occur when interacting with the journal entries scattered across the world, and issues with town projects boards failing to refresh. Then PvP experience bonus will no longer apply when in an expedition. Combat and AI For combat consumables, they fixed a bug that allowed the well-fed buff to stack from different tiers and types of food. The most recent instance of the buff will now replace any previous versions. They fixed a bug that prevented weapon coating items from being consumed properly when used. I thought that was kind of intended. I kind of like that, the well-fed buff. Gear perks: increased scaling of leeching perks on rings and weapons from a range of 0.5% to 1.5% damage converted to health on hit to a range of 1% to 5%. They've increased the efficiency of the Freedom, Vigor, and Invigorate debuff reduction perks from a range of 3% to 5% based on gear score to a range of 3% to 8%. They've decreased the cooldown of the Keen Speed perk, which grants haste on critical hits from 10 seconds to 5 seconds, and increased haste duration from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. They've increased the poisoning, bloodletting, burning, crippling, enfeebling, and infected effect duration on ring perks from a range of 3% to 7% to a range of 5% to 15%. Fixed a bug that allowed chain elemental perk to damage invulnerable characters. Fixed a bug that allowed chain elemental perks to strike down or dead targets. They fixed a bug that allowed the corrupted Bane perk to scale higher than the other Bane perks. Fixed a bug that caused chain elemental perks to trigger from the initial impact of the Great Axe Gravity Well skill. And they fixed a bug that caused the Hurdy perk was incorrectly giving a bonus to strike damage. For equipment load, they've increased the healing bonus of the light equip load from 20% to 30%, and increased the healing bonus for medium equip load from 10% to 15%. So if you didn't know, you get a bonus for healing depending on how light your gear is. So if you're a healer, wear cloth gear. Navigation updates. Jumping and traversal are now disabled when navigation is disabled, such as when hit with a root effect. They've updated the vault camera to smooth out the motion, updated jump in place to allow translation while in air, fixed various animation bugs alongside a variety of issues to smooth out general navigation. So they fixed an issue where attacking while sliding could cause a player to get stuck in an unnatural slide animation, an issue where jumping could cancel area effect aiming on some abilities. There was an issue where traversing with auto run had a slight movement pause, where player animation appeared to stutter when the transition to sprint finishes, when the sprinting jump noticeably slowed the player when landing, where the shield could fail to sheath properly after queuing certain actions, an issue where weapon swapping while gathering could cause a player to not have the correct weapons equipped or perform attack animations properly. They fixed an issue where players could become unresponsive if they blocked while running and trying to crouch, an issue where drinking a consumable while performing a gathering action would break the player's consuming animation, an issue where the camera moved along the crouching prone actions if players used those buttons while harvesting or skinning. They fixed an issue where spamming prone could get weapon sheath out of sync. An issue with player movement issues when attempting to place a camp while mid-air. An issue allowing players to bypass collision when taking weapons out while prone. An issue where animations could stutter when running after executing multiple attacks with certain weapons. Fixed an issue where the player was able to clip through outcropping collisions by using certain abilities while prone. There's an issue where players rotated incorrectly when entering sprint from moving backwards and sprinting from shield rush. Fixed an issue where auto run would not stop while attempting to place a camp. An issue where players could strength to scale unarmed attacks after prone and jump spam. An issue where players would sometimes become unable to execute heavy attacks out of the prone position when a magic weapon was equipped. For duels, they fixed an exploit by preventing gathering while in duels, so players can no longer duel to avoid durability damage while gathering. Wow. Um, attribute threshold bonus. They reduced the damage reduction provided by the 250 Constitution bonus from 80% to 60%. Aw. They fixed a bug that caused a 250 Constitution bonus cooldown to trigger on a blocked hit. They fixed a bug that was preventing players from dodge canceling out of attacks during an ability's recovery window when the 250 strength bonus was active. For dodge, they fixed an issue causing two-handed melee and magic staff dodge rolls to have a smaller invulnerability window than the other weapon types. They fixed inconsistent cancel timings between dodges of different weapon types. Fixed a bug which caused a backwards dodge to result in a small teleport. Fixed an issue that caused players to not take damage from an AoE if they dodged into the affected area. For war, structures are now immune to buffs and debuffs that logically wouldn't affect the siege weapon and deployable structures. They disabled player collision on infernal traps due to players occasionally getting stuck on them. They made it so player can't deal damage to other players with weapons abilities through the fort gates and war camp gates. In Outpost Rush, they reduced the power of battle bread from 15% damage and defense to plus 5% damage and defense, and they reduced the damage reduction of the Baroness buff from 25% to 15%. They reduced the damage and defense on the Commander tent from plus 5%, plus 7.5%, plus 15% to plus 3, 6, and 9%, respectively. For notable bug fixes, Backstab fixed a bug that could cause Backstab to trigger when attacking players from the front. On Block, they fixed a bug that caused some weapon mastery passives that state they trigger on block to trigger against unblockable attacks. Cooldown timers fixed an issue where various passives and perks cooldown timers were being removed when swapping weapons or unequipping gear. So I thought that was intentional, but that was like something that happened like all the time when you hit a passive or a perk and you switch weapons and it'll stop. So that's good to know that they actually fixed that. For weapons on the Warhammer, our goal with some of the changes below is to make the power of Juggernaut weapon mastery tree stand out a bit more from the Crowd Crusher tree and funnel some of the power of Shockwave's Rend to the Armor Breaker's Rend. Armor Breaker, lasting trauma. They've increased Rend effectiveness from 15 to 20%, increased bonus damage from opening act to 15 to 25% from 15%, adjusted Armor Breaker's hitbox to make it easier to hit enemies on inclines or that have been knocked down. For the Mighty Gavel, they've increased damage scaling from 160 to 170. Reduced the cooldown from 22 seconds to 20 seconds. Justice for All increased damage scaling from 200% to 220%. For Wrecking Ball, they've increased damage from 120 to 130. Safety measures increased fortified buff duration from 4 seconds to 7 seconds. Clear Out, the Swing Away fixed an issue where this upgrade was less efficient when striking multiple targets. Shockwave, Sundering Shockwave item perk reduced the maximum Rend effectiveness from 20% to 10%. For Path of Destiny, the Leeching Path of Destiny item perk fixed a bug that prevented this perk from working when Stimulated Reduction modifier was equipped. On the passives, the Exhaustive Attacks increased stamina regeneration penalty applied by the Exhausted debuff from 15% to 20%. For the Life Staff, the purpose of the Life Staff adjustments are to move some of the healing power into the light and medium equip loads while reducing some of the power of the tanky healing builds. We also want to make it easier to properly target and heal the correct group members. So they reduced base healing by 20% across the board to account for the increase in healing from equip load. Targeting adjustments, they normalized all targeted healing spells and target lock-on to have a max range of 25 meters. They added out-of-range targeted healing functionality Group UI will change color when the target is out of range. If the target moves out of range, the spell will cancel instead of casting targeting yourself. Trying to cast a targeted heal on an out of range target will display a target is out of range notification. Fix an issue where targeting heals activated by using the ability key would not perform a direct heal on the intended target. For Sacred Ground, they fixed an issue where the Life Staff, Sacred Ground visual effects, and tooltip stated it lasted longer than the actual duration. They reduced the effectiveness of the Sacred Ground Fortify perk from 3% to 15% to 3% to 10%. Reduced Holy Ground stamina and mana regeneration from 100% to 50%. Fixed an issue that allowed the healing from the skill to be stacked from multiple sources if they were using different ability upgrades. For Splash of Light, they increased the efficiency of Life Staff's Splash of Light ability from 40% to 60%. And they've increased the efficiency of Splash of Light's shared recovery upgrade from 3% to 5%. For Orb of Protection, they fixed an issue where the shared protection effect was being refreshed by the healing applied by Protector's Blessing. Mending Protection item perk. This perk's functionality has been changed. Instead of triggering if the target does not have any active buffs, it now triggers if the target healed by Orb of Protection is under 50% health. Light's Embrace. Increased the efficiency of Light's Embrace connection upgrade from 1% to 2%. And for the passives, Blessed item perk, they reduce healing bonus effectiveness from a range of 10%, 30% to a range of 5% to 20%. For the hatchet, we wanted to buff the throwing axe tree to make it more useful, buff the infected throw ability to make it more viable as an anti-healing ability, and improve the buffering for heavy attacks to make them more consistent to use. We also worked to resolve issues that resulted in missed hits. So generally, they fixed an issue where aimed throw could be used to cancel basic attacks at any time. Fixed an issue causing heavy attack to not buffer properly, resulting in some attack transitions not functioning. Fixed an issue causing players homed in on the target. The player would be moved to a spot far enough away from the target that the hits could miss due to hitbox sizes being a bit smaller than the distance the player would be from the target. For Berserk, they fixed an issue where activating Berserk would consume the Relentless Fury and accumulated power and power buffs. Feral Rush fixed an issue where Feral Rush could be triggered without a cooldown in settlements. Raging Torrent fixed an issue where some attacks could miss. Infected Throw increased disease and weakness duration from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. Mortal Power increased the bonus duration on low health targets from 8 seconds to 15 seconds. Aerial Transmission increased the duration of the AoE clouds from 3 seconds to 6 seconds. For Rending Throw, they reduced the cooldown from 15 seconds to 8 seconds. In Defy Death, they fixed an issue where the Defy Death ultimate cooldown timer was removed when a player died. For the Great Axe, Reap fixed an issue with the Great Axe Reap incorrectly triggering a breakout dodge. Gravity Well fixed an issue causing the Gravity Well slow effect to not always be removed if a player was able to get out of the effect area, resulting in the effect lasting up to 2 seconds longer than intended. Fixed an issue where the Gravity Well tooltip wasn't listing the melee damage caused by the ability if Gravity Well is used in close proximity to a target. They've added Grit to Whirlwind and Fortifying Whirlwind, the item perk, fixed an issue where this perk applied too many stacks of Fortify. And passives, Heavy Pull fixed an issue where heavy attacks had incorrect hitboxes when this passive was equipped. The Gravity passive no longer increases the duration of all pulls. We updated the ability to now apply Root for 0.25 seconds to targets hit by a pull. That's a very small amount of Root. For the bow primary attack fixed an issue that allowed consecutive primary attacks to be fired faster than intended. Updated descriptions for Rain of Arrows, Poison Shot, and Splinter Shot to indicate that they cannot headshot. Fixed an issue with several bow abilities not benefiting from increased damage from higher tier arrows. Evade Shot, Go the Distance. This upgrade now applies haste at the end of the ability rather than at the start, so that the buff duration is not partially lost during the skill animation. Poison Shot reduced cooldown of Poison Shot from 35 seconds to 30 seconds. They fixed an issue that could cause Poison Shot to go on cooldown without the ability being fired. For Rapid Shot, they reduced cooldown from 20 seconds to 14 seconds. Rapid Accuracy fixed an issue where this upgrade would not reduce the cooldown if the last arrow of Rapid Shot killed the enemy. For Rain of Arrows, it no longer hits enemies through doors. And for the passives, they fixed an issue where hip firing with the bow was triggering the heightened precision passive from the musket ability tree. For the sword, the main goal of the sword shield updates were to make the leaping strike ability feel better and to improve the buffering for heavy attacks to make them more consistent. They fixed an issue where basic attack buffers and cancels weren't working properly during the sword heavy attack, an issue where the fully charged sword heavy attack had different timings than the regular heavy attack. For shield rush, they improved rush, increased weaken duration from 4 seconds to 10 seconds. For leaping strike, they reduced the cooldown from 25 seconds to 18 seconds and increased the damage scaling from 135% to 150%. Sped up the recovery after using leaping strike to make it easier to transition into the other attacks, and cowardly punishment updated the description to include the slow percentage value. For the fire staff, they updated the fire staff to reduce some of the effectiveness of standard attacks due to how powerful they felt in comparison to certain abilities, and updated some abilities to feel more impactful. For the Pillar of Fire, they increased damage scaling from 134 to 170. Fixed an issue where Pillar of Fire targets the caster when activating using the ability key. Fixed an issue where Pillar of Fire failed to trigger Runes of Helios when activated using the ability key. Fixed an issue that caused Pillar of Fire to hit twice against targets near the edge of the effect radius. For Meteor Shower, they fixed an issue where the Runes of Helios triggered on targeting Meteor Shower rather than on casting it. For Fireball, they added additional clarity that the Fireball ability is not able to crit. Previously, it would show the crit damage color, but not actually deal increased damage. It will no longer show orange damage numbers, and an additional tooltip was added. Flamethrower increases damage scaling from 34% to 50%. Flamethrower is going to be ridiculous. I felt like it was already crazy. Passives, Clear Casting reduced damage bonus from 10% to 5%. Clear Mind reduced empowered effectiveness from 10% to 5%. Runes of Helios reduced damage bonus from 30% to 25%. Prophet of a Fire God reduced crit damage bonus from 20% to 15%. For Spell Slinger, they reduced the crit chance bonus from 15% to 10%. Fixed an issue where crit chance was increased for standard attacks and not just abilities. For Pyromania, they reduced damage bonus from 20% to 15%. For Kindle, they fixed an issue causing Kindle to increase buff duration by the incorrect amount. Reheat reduced the time without activating an ability to trigger reheat from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. They updated the Singe and Watch It Burn passives to mix up the functionality. Singe went from inflicting burn on critical hits to triggering burn on light attacks. Watch It Burn now inflicts burn on critical hits from abilities only. For the Spear, our goal was to buff and adjust some of the lesser used abilities to make a wider selection of abilities feel viable. They adjusted the distance the player moved towards the target when doing a heavy attack. The heavy attack was pulling the user too close previously, resulting in the Deadly Reach passive not being able to trigger consistently. For Sweep, Coup de Grace increased damage scaling from 125% to 150%. Would it be Coup de Grace or Coup de Grace? This attack is now flagged as heavy, allowing it to trigger heavy-related passives. Skewer, increased bleed damage from 10% to 20%. Perforate, increased damage scaling from 70% to 80%. Fixed the bug which caused the passive continuous motion to not reduce the cooldown of Perforate. For Cyclone, they increased damage scaling from 110% to 130%. For Vault Kick, they fixed an issue where Vault Kick's cooldown began 1 frame before the hitbox would appear. This resulted in the ability going on cooldown if the attack was interrupted early, even if it didn't hit. For the Ice Gauntlet, their goal with the Ice Gauntlet was to tone down the effectiveness of some of the maxed out combinations of abilities while still maintaining their individual usefulness. For the heavy attack, they increased heavy attack startup and recovery time to make it consistent with other magic weapons' heavy attack timing. Fixed an issue where Ice Gauntlet movement while attacking was faster than other magic weapons. Fixed an issue where basic attacks on the Ice Gauntlet could sometimes shoot through an enemy without dealing damage if they were too close. For the Ice Storm, they increased time between damage ticks from 0.25% seconds to 0.33 seconds. Fixed an issue where Ice Storm did no damage if the player had the Unending Thaw item perk, an issue where the Ice Storm didn't do damage to enemies immune to slow, and an issue where Ice Storm stopped if the caster swapped to their other active weapon. For Ice Spike, they fixed an issue where the Ice Spike displayed a cast timer despite being cast instantly. For Wind Chill, they increased damage scaling per tick from 16% to 20%. For Ice Shower, they increased cooldown from 20 seconds to 30 seconds. On Entombed players can no longer be healed. They reduced the health of Tomb to 50% of players' max health, reduced damage of Breakout Burst attack from 168% to 70%. That's a huge decrease, dang. Fixed an issue where invulnerability on Entomb could be removed while the tomb was still active. Fixed an issue that allowed players to move while entombed after dying. For the Ice Pylon, they increased Pylon health by 20%. Added a max. I wonder. I don't know. That's a huge damage reduction. I had to go back to it. For Ice Pylon, they added a max lifetime of 45 seconds to the Ice Pylon. They fixed an issue where Ice Pylon could consume mana but wouldn't activate on slopes, terrain, or off a ledge. They fixed an issue that allowed players to place multiple Ice Pylons at a time by dying and being revived. Fixed an issue with the Ice Pylon targeted neutral players of AI enemies during a 1v1 duel. I feel like that meme where they did the pylons for this is my car in the garage. Passives, Ultimate Chill. Reduce Ultimate Chill's bonus damage from 35% to 25%. Fix an issue where Ultimate Chill's ability would not apply to enemies in some cases. Updated Ultimate Chill tooltip wording to better clarify its functionality. Critical Frost, reduce critical change bonus from 20% to 15%. Energize Critical, reduce critical damage bonus from 15% to 10%. For Heavy Freeze, it added a 5-second cooldown to the freeze effect. Fixed an issue that allowed enemies with this passive to root players standing in their own ice storm. Fixed an issue where the iced refresh item perk could activate on both downing and killing a player. Now it triggers only on downing. For the rapier, they fixed an issue where Tondo, Flourish, and Fleche had their cooldown begin 1 frame before the hitbox would appear. This resulted in the abilities going on cooldown. If the attack was interrupted early, even if it did not hit, excuse me. This resulted in the abilities going on cooldown if the attack was interrupted early, even if it did not hit. For Flurry, they improved the homing of Flurry to fix an issue where subsequent attacks would frequently miss or be hard to hit. Overwhelmed, they fixed an issue where this upgrade was incorrectly applying stamina damage instead of just block damage. For Tondo, reduced cooldown from 11 seconds to 6 seconds, and again, fixed an issue that caused this upgrade to only function on blocking targets. For Post, they cooldown reduced from 20 seconds to 12 seconds. Base stun duration increased from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds, and lasting consequence stun duration increased from 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds. For the passives, momentum increased bonus damage from 25% to 30%. Swiftness fixed an issue where this passive was granting haste from bleed damage ticks instead of actually weapon hits. For the musket, similar to the balance updates of other weapons, our goal was to buff and adjust some of the lesser used abilities to make a wider selection of abilities feel viable. So they increased musket base damage by 2.5%. They fixed an issue where the musket cannot be reloaded after dodge rolling, then triggering auto run. They fixed an issue where reloading would not automatically resume after an interruption when the player was aiming. They fixed an issue where musket overcharge shots were not being consumed while hip firing when crouched. For traps, traps can no longer be triggered by players in Death's Door. For the sticky bomb, they increased damage from 175% to 235%. Huge damage increase. For stopping power, they reduced cooldown from 18 seconds to 15 seconds. For power shot, they reduced the cooldown from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. For the shooter stance, they reduced cooldown from 20 seconds to 18 seconds. Players can now exit shooter stance by pressing sprint, the ability key, dodge, escape, or releasing the right mouse button. For critical reload, fixed an issue that caused this passive to function inconsistently. That was a lot of weapon changes. Oh, they're all new weapons now. Holy crap. For the AI, we're getting down to the AI now. All right, general AI. There's new AI enemies, new lost enemies, the Withered Swordmancer, Withered Beetle, the Lost Shaman, the Lost Alligator Pet. There's the Ancient Guardian Skeleton Mage, and the Corrupted Villager updates. The strong Corrupted Laborer has put down his pickaxe and picked up some weight, now looking larger than ever. And villagers have had their attack sets reviewed and reworked to better differentiate them. So this is kind of a cool looking armor set. I thought it's cool, like graphic wise and everything. This looks really cool. So I'm glad they've diversified some of the enemy types here. They've added these interesting beetles now. I don't know where this automatically just appeared from. We got some odd scarabs happening. Will there be an Egyptian area coming soon now that we got scarabs all over the place? So bug fixes and AI tuning. General fixed an issue where AI could sometimes get pushed to invalid areas, causing them to die. An issue that caused health potions to generate threat. An issue that caused AI to become unresponsive if a large quantity of players were nearby. They're just froze. Like, if they don't see us, we're not here. An issue that could cause some objects spawned by bosses to not always despawn when intended. They've added hit volumes at the feet of all brute enemies to ensure attacks from players more consistently register. For elite affixes, they fixed an issue causing slow areas dropped by the slimy modifier to fall through multi-floor buildings. An issue caused phalanx and slow aura to sometimes attach to an enemy's feet and move erratically, and an issue causing Slicer to hit a much larger area than intended. For corrupted breaches, they fixed an issue where breaches could suddenly disappear mid-fight, and an issue that could sometimes cause enemies to not despawn after a breach was completed. For Outpost Rush, they fixed an issue that could cause bears to attack the wrong gate if both gates were upgraded to Tier 3. That's hilarious. We're going to stick our bears on you. Wait, no! Invasion, fixed an issue that allowed players to body block the Spriggan. Reduced the damage of the Invasion Spriggan by 20% across the board. Reduce the damage the Invasion Spriggan deals to structures by 50%. Oh, they nerfed the Spriggan. For invasions. For Ancient Guardians, the Ancient Mage is no longer immune to stuns. They reduce the damage of the Ancient Mage's close range blast away spell, fix an issue preventing some Ancient Guardian AI from properly retreating, and fix an issue causing some Ancient Guardian AI to strafe indefinitely. For the Angry Earth, the Dryad Archer's leaping spread shot should now more consistently hit the player. Oh wait, no, nobody wants that. It's okay, they don't have to hit us. Dryad Prowler fixed an issue that made Prowler T-pose when hit by some attacks. Corrupted Acolyte fixed an issue causing corrupted acolytes to be immune to crowd control effects. They fixed an issue that caused the Dynasty trainee to not deal damage. And they fixed an issue that could cause the commander to repeatedly do his dash attack. For Jonas the Corrupted, they reduced the model size of Jonas the Corrupted, reduced the self-healing on Jonas so he is more manageable encounter for a single player. Wait, Jonas gets corrupted? Spoilers! Dynasty Summoner fixed an issue making the Dynasty Summoner heal for significantly more health than intended during his retreat. For Corrupted Villagers, they fixed an issue that allowed Corrupted Villagers to chase players forever. For the Void Destroyer, they fixed an issue allowing the Void Destroyer's lasers to shoot players through the fort's wall. Well, that's not nice. For the Lost Porter fixed an issue that caused Lost Porters to be unable to correctly retreat. Under the Drowned Sailors, which are part of the Lost if you didn't know, they fixed an issue that allows Sword and Shield Drowned to block while using combo attacks, and an issue that could cause Drowned Mariners to get stuck on geometry. I mean, geometry can be a difficult subject to master sometimes. You know, all the shapes and stuff. They could, I could see where they can get stuck on that. For the Pistolier, they fixed an issue where the Pistolier would use melee attacks to attack out of range targets. The Pistolier will now better use its ranged attacks. For the Withered, they fixed an issue preventing withered enemies from killing players in Death's Door. Fixed an issue that could cause the withered grunt to get its head stuck in a fence. For brutes, they fixed an issue with the height of brute characters that allows them to get stuck in doorways. An issue causing the pirate's brute cannon to get stuck to his hand if staggered while in a cannon attack. I can't get the cannon off. For the wildlife, boars fixed an issue that would cause boars to behave erratically if a player shot a projectile near them. Oh, somebody's shooting. Somebody's shooting at me. Fixed an issue causing boars to instantly turn rather than smoothly turning while walking. Fixed an issue with the hit volumes on large boars so they can be hit more consistently by attacks. For alligators, they fixed an issue where alligators could get stuck trying to attack players who are above them. Fixed an issue where elk could get stuck in doorways or inside buildings. Fixed an issue where peacock kills were counted as turkey kills. But they are turkeys. Oh well. Fixed an issue where the left and right reaction for bears was reversed. What? Fixed the visible reaction hits on bears when staggered. Fixed an issue that could cause bears to get stuck in trees. Disabled cat's ability to look at and track the player with their head when stunned. For the wolf, they tuned the lunge attack on some wolves to have a smaller homing angle and to give players a more consistent window of time to dodge the attack. They toned down the player reaction to wolf attacks so that players are now pushed more smoothly instead of snapping to a new location. And for Stanley, they resolved a behavioral issue, sometimes allowing Stanley to get stuck running in place. For expeditions in the Amarine excavation, Simon Gray adjusted Simon's fixes to always be the same static effects between each spawn. They fixed an issue causing him to not pause summoning minions after all of the minions are killed. Performing Nakashima, they adjusted Nakashima's affixes to always be the same static effects between each spawn. For the depths for Archdeacon Azmelia, they fixed an issue allowing his hounds to be repeatedly killed for experience and loot, fixed an issue causing hounds to not play proper spawn animations, a rare issue where Azmelia would try to attack players outside of his arena, an issue where the teleporters could be left on after a team wipe, an issue causing teleport VFX to not apply to the player, and an issue causing his obelisk to not show beam visual effects. They also fixed an issue that allowed the corrupted carapace over Captain Thorpe's teleporter to be damageable by enemies, and an issue that made Scary Shiv Acolyte enemies immune to all crowd control debuffs. For the Dynasty Shipyard, Commander Chen, they tightened up Commander Chen's damage volume so that he deals more consistent damage in the expected locations. For Isabella's pets, they fixed an issue where Isabella wouldn't look at the player she was targeting with her pistol shot, and an issue where the death of Isabella's tigers could empower the AI outside of the arena, and an issue causing Isabella to only deal strike damage. For the Empress, they fixed an issue causing the Dragon's Breath spell to kill players in Death's Door, an issue causing Pearl Pedestals to continue casting even after death, an issue causing Pearl Pedestals hitbox to be too high. They adjusted timing on Dragon Dive so that it is less likely to hit players before the visual appears. They fixed an issue causing Corruption Blast to be difficult to block for players who are very close, such as the group's tank, and an issue causing the Empress to be vulnerable to damage during specific animations while in Phase 2. For the Guardian of Genesis, Alluvium Marl fixed an issue causing his minions to be level 57 instead of 66. They fixed an issue causing Alluvium's dive attack to sometimes deal no damage, an issue that could sometimes cause players to become stuck in Alluvium Marl's root arena wall. For the Blighted Greenskeeper, they fixed the issue preventing the small poison pools from dealing proper damage, and reduced damage of Siren Scream by 15%. For the Lazarus Instrumentality, for Scylla, they fixed an issue where Scylla's staff phase will last too long, causing the conduits to become out of sync with her arcane might stacks. Chartis, they fixed the rare issue that allowed Chartis Beam to continue after all players were dead, slightly increased the damage volume size in Chartis' armpits for more consistent hits. Chartis got those funky armpits. Fixed the issue that prevented Chartis from taking bonus damage from the Ancient Bane perk. Fixed an issue that prevented the Ice Gauntlet's Entomb from being damaged by Chartis laser. Fixed an issue that allowed Chartis to be damaged by throwing catches from outside of his arena. Fixed several issues that prevented Chartis and his Lazarus orbs from being damaged by player abilities. For the arena bosses, Avarice fixed an issue that allowed Avarice's minions to drop loot. Banes reduced the model size of Banes. Man, this is a huge update. Economy, progression, and loot. Faction change cooldown has been reduced to 60 days, down from 120. Repair kit weight has been reduced from 2.0 to 0.1. You felt 2 pounds was too heavy, and 0.1 is not very heavy at all. It should be easy to keep a few at the ready in your back pocket. Added the item chunk of consecrated iron to the top rank of the faction shop for all factions. Chunks of consecrated iron are used to craft the resilient perk for armor items. On the economy tip, all trading posts have been linked. Woo! And there was much rejoice. Both the listing tax and purchase tax will be paid to the territory where the buy or sell order was listed. Items listed in sell orders that expire are returned to the settlement from which they are posted. It is no longer possible to place items on the trading post for 28 days. The maximum is now 14 days. They reduced the durability loss from PvP deaths by 10%. They reduced the quantity of honey gained from apiaries by 50%, and the amount of milk from cows by 65%. Honey trees are unaffected by this change. We made this change because the volume of milk and honey in the world is higher than our initial estimates. The bees and cows are happy about this change, especially the cows. Woo. Housing taxes are now due every 7 days instead of every 5 days. No changes to costs, so players will gain 2 days of housing time without an increase to their taxes. For progression, they reduced territory standing gains from cooking as they were a bit more generous when compared to similar efforts put into the other crafting trade skills. They could have just increased the other crafting trade skills. Updated a Herplatz Homestead Town project to now require one mission item instead of 5. Increased the XP requirements for progressing crafting trade skills. Once players unlock a new tier of recipes, example, iron, then steel, the XP requirements to continue progressing by just crafting things at the previous tier will be significantly diminished. However, it should still take the same amount of effort to progress the crafting skill if you craft items in the highest tier you are capable of crafting. Should have always been like that. Trade skills, potion crafting update. We felt that some of the higher tier core potions, particularly health potions and mana potions, were a little too difficult to craft. So we updated the recipes to craft these items and introduced a new alchemical component to do so, Alkahest. Alkahest is crafted by distilling the magical herbs found throughout Aeternum and serves as a reliable and potent base for potions going forward. Rare resources from gathering nodes. Thanks to reports in the forums, we found a probability issue where the rare resources from tier 2, 3, and 4 gathering nodes and resolved it. Thanks to everyone who contributes to making New World better with your reports. The short version is we had a couple of probabilities that were multiplying each other result in a near zero chance of some already rare items dropping. This combined with an issue that can make it next to impossible for an item to drop if your luck values are too high. Not exactly how luck should work, which translated into a luck sweet spot that you had to be in to even have a chance, that near zero chance at getting a drop. With this fix, things like Fey Iron, Void Metal, Phase Fiber, and Petrified Wood should now have an appropriate chance to drop after you reach a certain trade level skill. This chance can be increased by eating the appropriate trade skill when gathering. I think they meant the word food. Trade skill foods also enable the possibility for these to drop before you would ordinarily be able to receive them based on your trade skill level alone, albeit at a very rare rate. Fishing. Opening fishing mission now requires 3 woodlouse bait instead of 5. For loot rewards, they've added several new named items as special drops from named knights found in the world. Knights that are quest targets don't have special drops. Named knights, huh? Added a new style of weapons that drop from the knight enemy type. Rook's defense tower shield now has a tower shield appearance instead of a kite shield appearance. Added a set of weapons designed by the participants of the Battle for New World event. These weapons are tier 5 and capable of being legendary if they roll a gear score of 600. Notable bug fixes. Players can no longer create buy orders for items that cannot exist. Fixed an issue that was causing bread and cheese baits from being craftable at kitchens. Players can no longer post sell orders when their storage is full. Fixed an issue that was causing boars and alligators to grant more skinning XP than intended. Fixed an issue that caused players to come across bags of discarded items not belonging to them and couldn't be correctly interacted with. Fixed an issue that prevented town project missions items from resetting the mission state when dropped. Fixed an issue that caused quick left mouse button taps when reeling in a fish to cause the reeling to happen automatically, which can make it very difficult to control the line tension. An issue that was causing higher tier common items to drop from certain low level enemies. An issue was causing small and large star metal and orichalcum veins to give the opposite amount of ore when mined. Small ones gave large and large gave small. That's interesting. An issue with Syndicator armor piece that was causing it to have a much higher gear score and by extension level requirement than it should. Please note that this fix will affect existing instances of that item. An issue that was causing gold and platinum ingots to require a smelter 1 tier higher than they should. An issue that was causing some named crafted items to present as legendary but craft as epic. Now they should appropriately preset as epic. Fixed an issue that was allowing fire staffs to be crafted with unrefined woods. Added new craft mods to the game to account for a small number of perks that could roll on items but were unable to be assigned in crafting. An issue where some craft mods were dropping in game but weren't able to be traded on the trading post. Similarly, the trading post listed some craft mods that were deprecated and not dropping. These have also been removed as listable on the trading post. We removed some deprecated and non-functional craft mods from the drop list. If you possessed one of these items, it has been changed to a different functional item. Star Metal's Arcanist Charm has been converted to Steel Arcanist Charm. Star Metal Armorer's Charm is now Steel. So anything Star Metal is now Steel. Silver has been converted into Shard. Auriculum has been changed into Star Metal. Drops of Vicious Azoth is now Vial of Vicious Azoth. Squirming Vines are now a tangle of writhing briar. Writhing Vines are now a clump of writhing briar. And Thrashing Vines are a clump also. A shard of Wordwood resin is now resin shavings. A chunk of Wordwood resin is now resin shavings. A vial of Weirdwood sap is now vial of sap. And a drought of Weirdwood sap is just drought of sap. They fixed an issue that caused attribute mods to not be usable as an ingredient when crafting repair kits, and fixed an issue that caused repair kits to charge a coin fee when used. They also fixed an issue that caused certain pieces of weaponsmithing armors to not drop chest pans. This is the biggest patch ever. Alright, UX, UI, and social. Streamer mode updates. Players can now individually block company invites, group invites, friend invites, coin transfer, trade requests, dual requests, and chat direct messages. Choosing the full do not disturb will turn off all incoming notifications, and they've added notifications to the sending player to let them know their invites or requests are blocking when sending to a player actively using streamer mode. For salvage and repair, they added a tooltip on damaged gear indicator explaining how to repair. They added the damaged gear indicator to the inventory screen when a player has damaged gear. They added a tutorial pop-up to better explain repair parts. They highlighted repair all and repair buttons to make them clearer. For notable bugs, we now prevent players from locking in player-to-player trades that will result in inventory overflow. Players near the coin cap are prevented from doing trades that would cause one player to exceed the cap and therefore lose coin. Added a quest icon and highlight animations to crafting items that are required for quest. Fixed the bug that would cause titles to be reset after each game update. Added proper icons to a number of items that were missing icons in the trading post. Leaving a group during a war caused you to leave the war without warning. Players can no longer leave groups during war, but they can leave the war after confirming they want to do so. Fixed the bug where sometimes the tier of crafting and refining stations shown on the map flyout were wrong. Added a confirmation prompt when attempting to take all from the storage shed to avoid annoying accidental misclicks. We now show an icon to members of your own faction when they are flagged. This should help players determine if they have nearby reinforcements or sufficient numbers for a PvP engagement. Upcoming war and invasion tooltip on the map will now remain closed and not reappear when you open the map if you've closed the notification until the next war or evasion. If foreign language stirrings are missing, it will no longer show debug strings, it will show the English text instead for better context. It should do the same thing for when you have skills that you haven't used. Update. Our team included these additional fixes in the Into the Void update. The update for the update. They fixed an issue where Chest and Lazarus Instrumentality and Garden of Genesis were not properly contributing to the high watermark system. Fixed issues preventing Gear Score 600 Arcana weapons from being crafted. T5 weaponsmithing pants now drop from name enemy entropy, which enables players to complete their full set of weaponsmithing apparel. Increase coin gain from expedition bosses starting in Starstone by 25% and ramping up to in-game expedition bosses granting an additional 100%. Where is entropy at? I think entropy is a lost enemy. I could be wrong though. Thanks for your support. We'll see you in Eternum. It's time to vanquish some Varangian Knights. Or Varangian? Varangian. Whoa, that was a long update. We've almost hit an hour in this video. That was a lot of reading. Thank you guys if you made it this far for sticking through it all. I hope you guys are enjoying the game. This is probably like the largest update I've seen in a game. It's pretty crazy. But this is all the stuff we got. The world's biggest update for the new world. A lot of these changes are pretty good. I hope they have even more good news coming in the next patch. And they keep building on this lore and stuff that they have going on. I always thought it was weird that Isabella was in the same dungeon as the Dragon Queen, but it's still there. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching this video. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Peace.